And so turn to your neighbor, give them a high five, and tell them, Happy New Month. Happy New Month. It's a new month, and a new month means a new sermon. Yes, and so we begin a fantastic sermon series about leadership. But before I dive in, turn to your neighbor and ask them, who is one leader that you don't want to become? Now, disclaimer. Wait, before you go on, steer away from national politics. Okay? Yes, just steer away. Start thinking globally. For us who are saved, sanctified, think biblically. So think biblically and globally. All right, let me hear some samples. Just shout them out. Shout. Just again, do not say some presidents of some African countries that we may live in, okay? All right, let me hear. Just shout it out. Putin. Trump. Who? King Jong. That one. All right, this side. Elon Musk. Yes, shockingly Elon Musk. Who else? Idi Amin. Yeah, so those are the leaders that no one wants to become. Biblically. King Saul. King Ahab. Someone is shouting Satan. Why? All right, on this side, you had your hand raised. Just shout it out. Yes, King Saul. Let me tell you mine. We've been going through canonical Bible reading. Mine is King Jeroboam. Because if it wasn't for him, really he was the door opener. He just lost the plot entirely. And so he was the measuring stick for all bad kings. You either walked in his ways, but King Ahab decided walking in the ways of King Jeroboam is child's play. I'm going to just do the worst I possibly can. And even as we talk about the bad leaders, the truth is leading at any level is a tough job. When you're trying to figure out how to move people from one place, even just physically. I don't know whether you've ever done those. You say we are meeting. No, let me give you this one. You say, guys, we are going to Mount Kenya in August as a team. When you begin, how many are you? 40. When you go, you're 2. Leading people is a tough job. Sometimes it almost feels like you're pulling out your teeth. I don't know if you're here and you've tried to organize a family hangout. And you're like, guys, this is for your good. I need you to come. It feels like you're suffering. Or maybe you lead at work and your team has checked out. The only reason they come to work is because they'll be paid. But then they moved on. They're like, I am here for the money. Anything else, I don't care. Or maybe you lead people who don't respect you. If you're a parent and you're trying to lead your kids, they look at you. They're trying to decide, is this a suggestion or is this an instruction? How serious are you? Whether you lead in your family, at work, in church, at school, anywhere in between, the question you've probably asked yourself, the first question we all ask is, am I really cut out for leadership? Now, even when you answer that question in the affirmative and you say a big yes, then the question you ask is, how do I do it well? So that even as you lead your different departments, one day when people are looking down, history of your department head, history of leading associate team, they're not going like, that was the worst leader we ever had. And so how do you even lead effectively? And so if you've ever asked yourself this question, I'm happy you're here. Because today we begin a new brand series called Braveheart, Dare to Lead. And this series is designed for everyone. Whether you lead at work, whether it's an organization, a startup, a business, whether you lead in church, whether you lead a discipleship group, or whether you lead an associate team, whether you lead at home, maybe you lead the chama. As someone said in first service, if you translate that, it's a self-help group. Maybe you lead even your cousins' WhatsApp groups. It can get a bit dramatic. No, you're like, I want you guys to come together, And And then kidogo kidogo people are leaving. And it can be very complicated. Whether you lead at school, at downtown we have very many people who come here who are in campus. Maybe you're the class rep, the class monitor, student president, name it. And maybe you're here and you're like, I'm not a leader yet, but I desire to lead. Then this sermon series is for you. And I want us to dive into God's word, because today we'll be looking at one of the leaders who, when you guys say to us leaders, thankfully they are not there. But I want us to look at the story of Joshua. And we'll be reading from Joshua 1:1 to 9. This is what it says. After the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord said to Joshua, son of Nun, Moses' aide, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now then you and all these people get ready to cross the Jordan River into the land I'm about to give to them, to the Israelites. I'll give you every place where you set your foot as I promised Moses. Your territory will extend from the desert to Lebanon and from the great river, the Euphrates, all the Hittite country to the Mediterranean Sea in the west. No one will be able to stand against you all the days of your lives. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Be strong and courageous, because you will lead these people to inherit the land I swore to their ancestors to give them. Should I wait for it to load? Let me just continue. You'll track with me, yeah? All right. Verse 7 says, thank you, Jesus. Be strong and very courageous. Be careful to obey all the law my servant Moses gave you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left, that you may be successful wherever you go. Keep this book of the law always on your lips. Meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you'll be prosperous and successful. Verse 9 says, have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. And so Moses is dead. Now, Moses had been an outstanding leader. This guy had strength and stamina. And then on top of that, he had some spiritual qualities that were just exceptional. And then he enjoyed a very, very close relationship with God. After his call at the burning bush, Moses became God's spokesman, but also the mediator between God and the people of Israel. And then he dies. He goes and is not coming back. But before he dies, he actually summons Joshua. And he says that this is the man who will come after me. And so here, Joshua is here. He's like, okay, Moses is dead. He is gone. And here I am. But I want us to figure out, who was this Joshua? Who is this Joshua? Now, his first appearance is as a warrior. What happened is that Moses says, let me choose a few guys, and what I want you to do is I want you to go and fight the Amalekites. That's in Exodus 17:9. He's also mentioned as being Moses' assistant. He was like his aide. No, it's not really like an intern, like an assistant. Where Moses was, there he was. And we see that he was with Moses at some very key moments in history. He was with Moses when Moses went out to meet the Lord on the mountain. He was also with Moses when Moses returned to find the Israelites worshiping the calf. He was also with Moses when Moses remains in the tent and the Lord speaks to him face to face. But the most significant story about Joshua before this is when he was sent as one of the 12 spies. And so Moses gathers some 12 guys and he tells them, so what I want you to do is go into the promised land and come back and report what it's like. And so they're like, okay. So him, some 10 people, Joshua and Caleb. When you read the story, he's actually referred to as Hoshea, son of Nun. So it's actually Moses who gives him the name Joshua. And so they go, they spy the land, and they come back. Now, 10 of the spies out of 12, they say, indeed, the land is flowing with milk and honey. But then they say, the people are giants and the cities are fortified. But then they add, there is no way we can take it. Now, Joshua and Caleb give a completely different report. They say, it's not a lie. The land is indeed flowing with milk and honey, and the people are giants and the cities are fortified. But we're going to take this land because the Lord is with us. Right there and then, Joshua distinguishes himself together with Caleb as a man of strength and as a man of courage. And so it comes as no surprise that Moses could actually choose Joshua as his aide and his assistant. And so at the end of his life, Moses calls the people and he says, the Lord has chosen Joshua to lead you. And so now Joshua is at the verge of the Jordan River. He's about to enter the promised land. And these are the words in Joshua 1:1-9 that the Lord speaks to him. For him, I imagine it must have been an overwhelming experience. Must be like, huku ni wapi? But also, he must have been aware of the promise that the Lord gave. You know, the promise to take the promised land. I know, the promise to take the promised land was given to Abraham, was given to who else? Jacob, Isaac, and Moses. And so God had spoken that word for many years. But all of those people are dead. And so Joshua is standing there and saying, wait, so the promise that was promised hundreds of years ago, it is now mine to carry forth. So I can imagine it was overwhelming. Are you guys understanding? This thing has been told to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and Moses, but they are not here. And so he stands at that verge of the Jordan and is like, wait a minute. And I'm imagining that he was overwhelmed because he realized that he is the one to fulfill the realization of this age-old dream. Now, because God understands our human hearts, he must have seen that Joshua was afraid. Yeah, he must have been like, this guy is afraid. Now, this fear is odd because this is the same Joshua that said, we can take the land. He's the same Joshua who gave a different report and he said, we can take on this land. And you know, it's easy when you have someone leading before you to say such things. To say, we can go. Let us go. We can take the land. And then Joshua right now is realizing, this report that I gave, but I'm the one. He was faced with that grim reality. And so God tells him 3 times, not once. What does the Lord tell him 3 times? Yes. He tells him 3 times, be strong and courageous. And I want to share with you 4 possible reasons why the Lord, it's almost like Joshua needed to be, thoroughly encouraged, exhorted to be strong and courageous. And I want to share with you 4 reasons why the Lord told him, not once, not twice, but 3 times, be strong and courageous. The first thing why Joshua needed to hear this 3 times and to, bring him out of his fear is the man he was to succeed. Moses was a man who could plead with God until God changed his mind. Can you imagine that level of relationship with God? You can plead with God until he changes his mind. Moses was a great leader. He displayed wisdom, patience, tolerance. He led with great strength. And he had done this for 40 years. He was the mediator between God and the people. And so Joshua clearly had big shoes to fill. And I'm imagining he was there and he was like, the worst and the last thing I want to hear is if only Moses was here. Yeah, if only Moses was not dead. I can imagine that was his great fear. Joshua feared walking in the shadow of Moses his whole life. And this is what God tells him in Joshua 1:7. It tells him, be strong and very courageous. Be careful to obey all the law my servant Moses gave you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left, that you may be successful wherever you go. So that's point number one, the man he was to succeed. The second thing was the task before him. Now, the Lord was very clear in telling Joshua what his task was. Joshua 1:1-2. After the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord, the Lord said to Joshua, son of Nun, Moses' aide, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now, this is his JD from here. Now then, you and all these people get ready to cross the Jordan River into the land I'm about to give to them, to the Israelites. And so his task was simple, to possess the promised land. But now you need to remember that this promised land, though it was flowing with milk and honey, it still had who? Giants. It was fortified. Like it wasn't a walk in the park. He knew that the task ahead of him was audacious. And even though he had disagreed with the other spies, he knew that now he is faced with the grim reality of going to fight the Canaanites. And I can imagine it was a scary prospect for him. And this is what the Lord tells him in Joshua 1:6, the last part B. It tells him, be strong and courageous, because you will lead these people to inherit the land I swore to their ancestors to give them. And so the task ahead of him was crazy. But then the third reason why Joshua needed to hear, be strong and be very courageous, was the people he was about to lead. You know, Joshua knew these Israelites very well. Why? Because he had been with Moses. He saw the mental anguish that they caused Moses. He was right there. He saw how, literally how crazy they drove Moses to the point of wanting to disown them. Now, these people, the Lord himself said about them that they are a stiff-necked people. This is what the Lord said. They are a stiff-necked people. He says this in Exodus 33:3. Go up to the land flowing with milk and honey, but I will not go with you. These are the words of the Lord over the people Joshua was about to lead. Because you are a stiff-necked people, and I might destroy you on the way. Now, Joshua is standing there, and it's like, if God doesn't want to go with these people, man, now I have to lead them. And I can imagine he was standing there and thinking, I don't know whether I want to do this. Because they were difficult people. And this is what the Lord tells Joshua. Be strong and courageous, because you will lead these people. And so the Lord actually met him at his every point of fear. The last thing is the God he was to serve. Another possible reason Joshua was afraid is, he had seen what Yahweh, though he was awesome, he is awesome, he knew what he was capable for. This is the same God who opened the ground for it to swallow people alive. Like Joshua was there, he saw it. This is also the same God who let the Israelites wander for 40 years so that some can die and raise up a new generation to enter the promised land. This is also the same God who told Moses, you will not enter the promised land. Why? I gave you an instruction to speak to a rock. You hit it, you're not entering. And so I'm imagining Joshua is standing there and thinking, no, I have to serve this same God. Like anything can happen to me. The ground can open, I can be swallowed. I can end up wandering for, he knew, while he is awesome, he knew that the relationship is about to enter into God is a fearful thing. And so God reassures him again. And this is what he tells him in Joshua 1:9b. Be strong and courageous, Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will go with you wherever you go. And if you notice, the Lord was telling him, be strong and courageous, but also talking about the fears that he had. And you can hear this and be like, you know what? If this is leadership, I don't want it. When you think of the task that is ahead of you, the people that are before you, you're like, you know what? I'm no longer interested. Now, I want to say this. All of us seated here, we are created in the image and likeness of the ultimate leader, and that's God. God gave us dominion right from the beginning. Dominion means a capacity to lead. That's his design for all of us. And the truth is, if we bear his image, we also carry the potential to reflect his leadership. Anywhere he places us. Whether it's in a boardroom, a classroom, a ministry, a family, a discipleship group, leadership is in all of us. Even when it's dormant. Even when you doubt it. Even when you think, I don't know, am I really called to lead this class? Even when it's dormant, God sees it. And because God is a leader and we are made in his image and likeness, there is leadership trapped inside each and every one of us. And it's waiting to be called out, waiting to be cultivated, but also waiting to be released. Who your father is, you are. And Kenyans would like to say, upende usi, pende. But if this is the truth, then how come so many of us shrink back from leading? How come many of us are like, you know what? No, I'm not going to lead. I don't want to lead. And I'm not even about to think about starting to lead. And I think for us, most of the times we think that it's about gifts. We think it's about education. We think it's about even spiritual depth. But when you read the story of Joshua, this is what you find out. That God doesn't just call the capable. He empowers the courageous. Meaning that we all have to accept, number one, that leadership is in each and every one of us. And some of us maybe, whatever you are leading even now, you didn't quite, it just happened upon you. Maybe someone died, and you were like, well, we have to, find someone. Maybe your discipleship group multiplied and you were quickly, told lead the other one. But the truth is, for all of us, what God is asking of us today is that we will be bold and courageous. We'll be bold and courageous. Because if we are truly made in his image, then he's asking us to lead. This call to be bold and courageous, we all need to accept it. Because for Joshua to accomplish the task that the Lord had given him, what he needed to do is to be bold and courageous. And this is what he tells him in Joshua 1:9. It tells him, have I not commanded you? And so this was not a suggestion. He didn't say, perhaps I beseech you, could you consider this? Like it was a commandment. Because he said, have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. And so it was a command. And sometimes we imagine that courage is a feeling. Like I'm feeling courageous. Most of the time, courage has to do with obedience. It's not a feeling. You don't wake up. Most of the times, if anything, your knees are shaking, your palms are sweating. You're thinking, I might faint any minute now. But then you're like, you know what? If the Lord has called me, I will obey. And this is our story. This is my story. As I was preparing this, I really related to Joshua. Because in many ways, this transition Let me tell you, it's just last year that I was at Mavuno Rwaka. And let me tell you, we were happy at Mavuno Rwaka. Like we were leading a great community. Let me tell you, we were doing crazy things. We were doing crazy crusades in Rwaka. We were just like a crazy bunch of human beings. And it was fantastic. And I remember the Saturday when Pastor Kevin Kilonzi, a.k.a. Papa Kilo, called me. And he said, Pastor Nyamu, this is what is happening. I thought he was pranking me. But the guy, genuinely, even as I was there, I'm like, this is one of, no, he's pranked us many times. He's come and said, we are leaving. You're like, you're not leaving. Then he says, I'm joking. So I thought it was a joke. And then I hung up, but I told my husband, and said, so Papa Kilo called me, and this is what he said. I remember it was on a Saturday. And then it was radio silence. And then he calls again, and then he says, I want us to meet Pastor M. That's when he talked to me. Wait, you're serious about calling us back to lead Mavuno downtown? Because I just knew at that point there's no way Pastor M is being involved in, pranks and whatnot. And I remember just thinking, this is not real. In many ways, I imagine this is not real. I imagine the men who had gone before me. I imagined Pastor Kiama and Mrs. K. I remember I was here when downtown turned 18. And they were all on stage. I was like, man. Pastor BX and his wife. Pastor Kevin Deritu, who actually ushered me into serving here on the staff team. And then, of course, our recent campus pastor, Pastor Papa Kilo. And so I thought of those things, and I was like, this country can only be a prank. Because how do I serve after such great men, such serious men of God? And then, downtown has also never had a woman campus pastor. Guys, and then I'm not even the typical one. My mom is around. And 2 weeks ago, I was coming to church, but they dressed, ready to, literally I was at the door of the car. And then my mom turns, she's like, you're going like that? I'm like, wait, I'm confused. What do you mean I'm going like that? She's like, you're going to wear those shoes. Of course, I was in sneakers. I said, oh yeah, you don't know. I'm the sneaker-wearing preacher. And sometimes I'm like, really, like, it blows my mind. And for me, I remember just thinking the task ahead is also crazy. Because downtown is 10 times everything what Rwaka was. Like there's literally no part that it's not 10 times. And for me, I could imagine that, and I could really be afraid. But I remember what encouraged us as a family. Let me tell you, it's good to have a prophetic husband. Because even before the call came, my husband, I remember, walked straight to me and he said, babe, a transition is coming. No. Let me tell you what I thought. This is so bad, but I'll just be honest. I thought someone will be transitioned to glory, But then I was like, okay, now which family member will die? No, but then no one was dying. And so when the call came, we were like, okay, this is it. But still, it didn't do away with the fears. I was like, why? Because the task is still ahead of us. But let me tell you what encouraged me. Is when I went into the Bible, and I was like, well, I am not the first leader to feel unqualified. When I read about Moses, this is what Moses said when the Lord called him. He said, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring out the Israelites out of Egypt? We had many moments for who are we? Like, who am I? When he called Gideon, when Gideon was told that he will save Israel, he protested. And he said, my clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I am the least in my family. Let me tell you, I had many moments of feeling unqualified, even professionally. Let me tell you guys, I have not done discovery. Let me just confess. So how it works at Mavuno is that you join as an intern. You do discovery internship, then you go to PT1, PT2, you become a ministry. That PT is pastoral trainee. I've not. Like, I've just been honest. But then, I'm like, who am I? Who am I? When I read about Jeremiah, this is what Jeremiah, who was called as a prophet to the nations, when he tried to opt out, and this was his excuse. He said, I do not know how to speak. I am too young. And there's a way Pastor Kiama preaches. Even though your mind is blown. Like, I had never connected that to this. Thank you, Lord. As in, we've had fantastic teachers of the word. And then there was me. It is what it is. Like, when I thought of Papa Kilo as a teacher of the word, guys, so you get convicted at like 5 minutes in, you're like, whatever you're saying, I am in. And so, let me tell you, there are many times I thought, I'm like, But then, over and over again, this is what God has consistently proven in his word and in my life, that God doesn't call the qualified. What he does is that he qualifies the called. And so if you're here, in whatever capacity the Lord is asking you to lead, and you feel like you're too young, too inexperienced, what else? Even too old, because that's a real thing. Yeah, maybe too quiet. You think you have the wrong personality, too broken. You are exactly what the Lord can use. He calls the unqualified. And what he's asking you today is, could you be bold and courageous? And so I want to ask you a question. What area of leadership is the Lord calling you to be bold and courageous about? What area of leadership are you sensing, even as I'm going on? What area is the Lord asking you to be bold and courageous? Maybe it's in your family, to mend relationships, to bring people together, to initiate reconciliation. Maybe it's in your workplace. The Lord is asking that, could you lead a department, but could you do it with integrity? Maybe it's ministry. You've been hiding under behind, I am not ready. Maybe it's asking you to sign up to lead a discipleship group, or even to multiply an existing one. Maybe it's in your school, in your college. The Lord is asking you, could you step up to even maybe lead the class, be a class rep? And maybe you're like, you know what, I'm not sure. And so this is the question I want you to think about. And even as we do that, I want to leave you with the words of Hebrews 10:35. This is what it says. This is in the New Testament. It says, so do not throw away your confidence. It will be richly rewarded. You need to persevere so that when you have done the will of God, you will receive what he has promised. But my righteous one will live by faith. And then it goes on to say, and I take no pleasure in the one who shrinks back. These are the words of God. He takes no pleasure in those who shrink back. Goes on to say, verse 39, but we do not belong to those who shrink back. Amen? And are destroyed. Can you imagine when you shrink back, you actually get destroyed? It says, but to those who have faith and are saved.